If you are asking about how long it took me to make my profile strong, I would answer it takes years. But if you're asking in terms of the actual collection of evidence and sort of the start to end for the visa application, I did it within 2 months.
Wow.
Since there are not so many applicants for O1, I've heard that it doesn't take 4 months, maybe 1 to 2 months maybe.
You did all of it on your own with the help of lawyer who was actually filing the petition. Were you scared at all or overwhelmed when you first looked at like these criteria, like this no way I will qualify for this? How much is this gonna cost me, including lawyers? What about O1B? Like, can you self-sponsor or do you need a company to sponsor you?
Statistically, the approval rate for O1 is between 85 to 90%, which is a very high approval rate.
Are there any misconceptions about O1B, like, or O1 in general? Before you watch the podcast, let me share that Sameedha actually went through the whole H1B lottery process herself and realized that she should have an alternative route, which is a talent visa route, and started working on her O1 visa. And I'm sure you will learn the details of her entire journey and the whole process of O1 visa in the podcast. But if you are someone who just went through the H1B lottery, whether it's a second attempt or perhaps the last one, you should always have a backup plan. And one of them could be talent-based visa, which is O1 visa or EB1 visas. Now, I get it that the whole O1 and EB1 process seems like super complex and you feel overwhelmed. But this is where Team Jinee comes in, who are sponsoring this video. They run an educational cohort program where they will help you figure out the ins and out of the talent-based visa. They'll work with you one-on-one, and they have a beautiful community as well. Sahil, who's the founder of Team Jinee, he got his own EB1A visa and is on the mission to help several others to get this talent-based visa. So if you feel like you would qualify for something like this, then send your latest resume to support@geniegreencard.com and make sure to mention UDJ in the subject line, and they will waive off the entire profile evaluation fees. And if you qualify, then they will also do free consultation call with you. And now make sure to watch the entire video of Sameedha's journey, which is mind-blowing. Thank you, Sameedha, for doing this. I am excited. First, because I think you're the first one who got O1B visa and who's on the channel. And we're going to learn more about what the heck is O1B visa, why is it better, who should apply, who cannot apply, what does it require to get it approved, and all of the fun stuff. But before we get started, let's do like a quick intro. Where are you from? When did you come to United States? What did you do? And what do you do now?
Sure. So, Yudi, thank you so much for having me on your show, and it's great that I have a platform to share my experience. So, I am an architect and an urban designer. I did my bachelor's of architecture from Mumbai in India, and after working in India for a year, I came to Carnegie Mellon University in Pittsburgh for my master's. So, I did my master's in urban design. I came to the US in 2019, graduated in 2021, which was during COVID. And after working as an environmental designer for 6 months, I switched to a job that I actually liked and wanted to do, which is architectural design. And since the past 3 years now, I've been working at HDR, which is an architectural and engineering firm.
Nice. Okay. And we are going to do two other videos. One is the whole journey about your master's in architecture, and apparently it's a STEM degree. So how that all works, and then we'll also talk about the career specific, because I know there's probably not any content that I've seen about architecture and life of an architect and design and all of it. I know slightly a little bit because my wife, she was in architecture field. She does a lot of drafting, or she did a lot of drafting. So she works with the architect to get her plans approved. Architects' lives is so easy. They just have to say like, tell drafters like, okay, do this.
Oh God, no. Well, not all architects have draftsmen for them, so sometimes we have to do our own drafting.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Yeah. But basically, I know that she was working for multiple architects and she would do the drafting and and then, huge long paper. And then they would do like, no, not this, they do this. So she would come home with this like big paper. So I know slightly a little bit, but of
Mhm.
course we will explore that as well in the separate podcast.
Sure, yeah.
But I want to start with O1B.
Mhm.
And before I do that, like you said, you are from Mumbai and you did your bachelor's from Mumbai.
I'm
Where
not
in?
from Mumbai. I'm from Aurangabad. But for my undergrad studies, I was in Mumbai for 5 years.
Where did you do bachelor's in?
Oh, I did it from Kamla Raheja. It's in Juhu.
Oh, of course, big people. That's nice. I was in DJ Sangvi, so not
Oh,
not
okay.
that
Oh,
far.
yeah. I read about you.
Yeah, yeah. Okay,
Mhm.
cool. So O1B.
Mhm.
First of all, like if you can like explain someone what the heck is O1B and why is that? Why should someone apply to it? Why
Mhm.
did you apply to it?
Mhm.
Yeah. So let's start with like what is O1B visa?
Sure. So the O1B visa is a non-immigrant employment-based visa. And basically anyone can apply for it. So for example, to apply for an H1B visa, you need to have a degree from an American university. That's one of the prerequisites. That's not the case for an O1 visa. So for an O1 visa, if you are in the United States and if you are good at what you do, you can apply irrespective of your field. So you could be in sciences, you could be into athletics, into creative fields, business, education, anyone can. The only criteria is it is very, like, it's kind of selective, it's merit
Mm,
based. So it's called sort of the extraordinary ability visa. So
mm,
basically you can apply for it regardless of what field you are
mm. Slight correction or clarification.
in.
Um, H1B, I don't think you have to have a US education
Oh, okay.
because people from India can also apply, or people from any country can apply with their
Right.
bachelor's degree. But the only caveat to it is there's only 65,000 or 85,000 total. And if
Hmm.
you do have a master's degree, then you get into like a extra 20,000 of master's quota.
Oh, okay.
Um, yeah, but still, it's it has to be a specialty occupation. It has to
Hmm.
have a certain prevailing wage. It has
Right.
to be like a highly skilled, and
Hmm.
STEM is more preferred, and all of that. Got it. So in your case, O1B, how did you like come across this thing that I should apply to this?
So I came across it because a friend of mine had applied for it and she got it.
Hmm.
So she is also into creative fields. She's a graphic designer, and her STEM was not a STEM based course. So she could only work for a year, and then she was looking for ways to extend her visa, and she came across the O1 visa option. So I came to know about it from her. And then, obviously, when I decided to apply, I read up on it, spoke to more people who had applied for it, spoke to a few lawyers, and sort of understood what the visa is about.
Hmm. And then, of course, there's O1A and then there's
Hmm.
O1B.
Right.
You applied for O1B, which
Hmm.
is more for, based on what my understanding is, that it is more for creative and art type of fields.
Hmm.
And then O1A is more science based, like computers
Yes.
and engineers and all of that.
Right. So initially, when I started, I was under the impression that I would fall under O1A as well, because
Mm,
architecture and urban design is a STEM course. So I
yeah.
thought I would fall under the science category. But turns out for O1, sciences are like you have to be into tech or physics, maths, stuff like that. So architecture is treated as a creative field for O1, which is why I fell under the O1B category.
Gotcha. Also love your friend that she also explored graphic designing
Hmm.
and into this, which tells me I know another friend of mine. I think she was also applying for O1B because she's doing UX designing, and
Okay.
UX also falls under the creative work of it,
Hmm.
even though there is a UX engineer and research part, but it's
Right.
very creative work.
Yeah, I don't know how they decide the categories. It's sort of blurry to me, but yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, so from timeline perspective, when did you start, and then how long did you like? How long did it take for your decision to come?
Okay. So there are a few requirements for the O1 visa, and there are a lot of deliverables that you have to give. So, in terms of timeline, if you are asking about how long it took me to make my profile strong, I would answer it takes years. But if
Hmm.
you're asking in terms of the actual collection of evidence and sort of the start to end for the visa application, I did it within 2 months.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And then how long does it take to get the decision back?
Oh, that's actually very quick. So once the application is in, once you send all your material, the expedited result comes within 15 business days, which is 3 weeks. And the normal process, which is not the expedited one, you get a result within 1 to 4 months. But since there are
Hmm.
not so many applicants for O1, I've heard that it doesn't take 4 months, maybe 1 to 2 months, maybe.
Hmm. And when you say expedited, you mean premium processing?
Yes, that's what I mean.
Gotcha. So you
The
have to
Yeah, the
pay
premium
slightly.
processing timeline is like 15 business days.
And I'm assuming you have to, and we're gonna talk about cost, but I'm assuming you
Yeah.
have to pay extra fees for that.
Oh yeah. Hmm.
Right. Hey, before we move on to the next part of the video, I want to quickly talk about our newsletter community, which you can be part of absolutely free. We are now going strong and we have more than 40,000 people in our newsletter community. So imagine 40,000 people are receiving my newsletter every single week, twice a week, where I break down all of the stories that we did and make it a valuable resource for you. So if you're someone who doesn't have time to watch this and you just want to get an email with all of the resources into an email, that is the place to be. I'll put the link in the description. I'll give you some example. This is the one for Tanvi, where how she got 2 co-ops and she paid off her entire master's fees. This is an example of Maya, where she got 3 co-ops and she paid off her fees plus a little bit of savings. Here is an example of Sahil, who got his green card in 3 years. Here is an example where we shared bunch of resources on job hunting. So I promise this is going to be valuable resource for you, and it doesn't cost you anything. If you want to be part of our newsletter community, link will be in the description, or you can go to link.udj.com/newsletter. This is the URL. And now I'll let you enjoy the video. Okay. So yeah, and I was asking from you, realizing that, okay, this is a path that I could take. Then
Hmm.
from there to gathering all the evidences to applying. So that was only 2 months.
Yes. So, okay. So I spoke to the lawyers once, and I spoke to two lawyers actually. And lawyers who deal with the O1 visa, they usually give a free consultation where so you're supposed to send them a detailed CV, like a really detailed CV to them beforehand. And based on the strength of your CV, they schedule like a free call with you to go over what are the gaps in your CV, what all you need to work on before you get back to them with the material. So I think I scheduled that sometime in May. Then
Hmm.
I got to know like what all I need to work on. And May through July, I was just like sort of filling the gaps in my CV. And then once I thought that, okay, I think I'm in a position where I can actually engage the lawyers, pay them for their services, and get like a critique on where my portfolio and submission is at. So I think I contacted them again sometime in July, and we started the process. And by mid September or end of September, I think third week of September, they sent it. Yeah.
Got it. So overall looks like 5 to 6 months, I'm assuming, from like
Yes.
you actually like starting the whole thing. Yes, of course, once the connecting with lawyer took probably
Hmm.
2 months, 2 to 3 months, but then you
Yeah.
first encountering that, oh shit, like this is a possibility, I could do something like this.
Yeah.
Then getting your first
Yeah.
evaluation, from there to working and all of it, that like
Yeah.
typically.
I think it's more like based on what you're missing in your profile. So there are candidates who have like everything ready, and they don't even need those 2 months that I needed in between to sort of gather
Mm,
more things to make my profile strong. So I think it
mm,
depends on a case to case basis. But
yeah,
yeah.
okay. And I know we've been vague right now about like the gathering evidence, and we will dive into that.
Mhm.
But imagine I like now I am also pursuing architect or some creative field. Maybe I'm a dancer, I'm an artist, I'm an actor,
Mhm.
or maybe engineer who wants to get into the O1A route. And we'll
Mhm.
talk about the difference between both of them. Now they watch this video thanks to Sameedha, who's willing to share her journey. They're like, Yudi, I need to get O1B or O1A.
Mhm.
What should I do? So what would you recommend them to do? And of course, we are not immigration lawyers, so this is not an immigration advice. But what
Right.
did you do once you found out?
Okay. So when I read about O1 before I even contacted the lawyers or spoke to my friends, I knew that there are certain sort of okay, the visa attorneys call it buckets. So there are
Hmm.
these certain criteria that you should fulfill. So there are loosely 8 to 10 buckets, and of those you should ideally be filling in like 3 to 4. So you don't need to
Hmm.
qualify for all 8 categories, 8 to 10. Having strong representation for 3 to 4 is good enough for the profile. So one of them is, say, winning awards. So have you won awards in your field? Again, for the awards, the tricky part is student awards don't count. They have to be awards of you or your work as a professional. So if you are a dancer, then if there was a show you participated in and it got awarded, so that counts. So awards is one. The second one is original contributions to your field. So this could be in terms of any papers you write, any journal articles that you print, or any designs of you. So artists could have like fine arts people, they could say that, okay, this is my painting, it was hung in the gallery of like modern art, so that is an original contribution to the field. Scientists could say that, okay, I have these 3 patents to my name, that is my contribution, that counts. So original contributions to the field is one. The third would be any press coverage that you have. So this could
Hmm.
either be, it could either mention you by name, or it could be for the work you have. So for example, I am an aviation architect. So the work that I do for airports gets a lot of media buzz. So I could say that, hey, this is a design I'm working on, and this has gotten media coverage. So by association, I have gotten media coverage. So something like that. One of the categories is, have you like presented work anywhere? So spoken at conferences, seminars, anything related to your field. One of the criterias could be judging events. Were you on a panel of judges to sort of peer review any work of you of others? So it could be that. One is salary requirement. Do you command a very high salary? So usually
Hmm.
that's not the case, especially for O1 applicants, because O1 applicants are generally like at the beginning of their career. So usually
Hmm.
that's a
Well,
criteria.
unless you are, I know there are a bunch of product managers who got O1s as
Okay.
well. And if they're working in Bay Area in Salesforce, like you
Well,
can make
yeah.
easily 200.
I mean, yeah, I am speaking from a creative point of view, and
Right,
creative
right, right. Yeah.
professionals don't really earn much. So, yeah, right
Yeah.
off the bat, my lawyers were like, yeah, we're not going to focus on this category for you at all because, yeah, you won't qualify for it.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Unless you are an actor working in your Raj movie or
Oh,
something like that.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Got it.
Yeah.
And while you were talking about the criteria, I wanted people to see, like, have the visual representation. So I'll put
Hmm.
the link for people. This is a USCIS website, so it is a legit website. But
Right.
these are the criteria which you were referring to. So like you
Yes.
said, beneficiary of receipt of national or internationally recognized awards. So
Mm-hmm.
this is, and when we say this is a, there are 8 criteria at least in one category. So
Mm-hmm.
when we say this is a criteria, so you have to look back, 25 years of your life, assuming you're 25 years old. Please
Mm-hmm.
don't mind if I quote your
Don't
age
worry.
wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But then you're like, okay, I got this award or whatever. This was like one of the things that I participated, or
Mm-hmm.
you could participate so that you can be
Exactly.
eligible for this.
Mm-hmm.
And so now you have an evidence for this.
Right.
Second, again, you come off to require membership in an
Hmm.
association or a field. So maybe you are a part of like an architecture, uh,
Yes,
like
like American Institute of Architects. So, do you have professional memberships? And again, it helps if the memberships are like like very,
prestigious. Yeah.
yeah, they're sort of exclusive. It helps with that.
Yeah. And then the third one, like you mentioned, anything that is
Right.
published in like or like an art in a gallery or something like
Mm-hmm.
that in this case,
Right.
or a paper in a journal
Mm-hmm.
or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, participation as a panel where you're judging someone
Judging.
else's work.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. This one is beneficial original scientific scholarship or business
Mm-hmm.
related contribution. So I think I'm not sure what this one is, but this one
Uh,
might be. Yeah,
yeah,
sorry,
it's
go ahead.
also, I think there's just two types of publications that they see, but I mean, when you apply, they just club everything under one. They're not going to be like, oh, this falls under this criteria. It's just going to be
Yeah, it's
one submission that you
right.
send. Yeah.
It's published material, patents, license, etc. So
Mm-hmm.
similar thing. And then yeah, scholarly articles,
Mm-hmm.
media. So again,
Right.
technically this YouTube presence could also be a media. Of course,
Definitely.
I'm
Yeah.
not saying that is what would qualify. You have
No,
to
but
talk.
it would qualify as one of the, yeah. So any presence of you
Hmm.
in a professional capacity qualifies. And it need
Hmm.
not be only in US media. So you could have, say, an article about you in a regional newspaper in India. That also qualifies.
Nice. Okay.
Mhm.
And yeah, and then 7 and 8, which again has a employed in critical capacity. So
Mhm.
your role is like very important in the
Right.
organization.
Hmm.
And then high salary, which is the last one,
Yeah,
which we mentioned that we are not gonna go for this one for architect type of people.
definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. So these are 8 criteria. So back to the original question, where
Hmm.
okay, so you now someone watched this, they're like, okay, out of these 8 criteria, where do I fit in?
Hmm.
Then do they try to like figure out on their own, or when do you reach out to lawyer?
Okay. So in my case, I went through these 8 criteria and I was like, okay, I have some experience judging. I have published a few things before. So I was like, okay, let's just send my CV to the lawyers and see what they have to say. So after I scheduled the first free call with two of them, so they gave me a list of what all I am lacking, what all I could possibly work on, and I was like, okay, this seems to be a good starting point. And they were like quite blunt. For example, I've heard cases where the lawyers didn't even give the first free consultation. They were like, it's not strong enough for us to discuss yet. So that
Mm,
actually is a good thing because that way you're not wasting your time and you can
mm,
actually like spend time strengthening your profile. So yeah, I think if you feel that you have even some of the material mentioned on that list, you can absolutely schedule a call with the lawyers and understand where you stand at in the process.
okay. And so in storyline, this
Hmm.
is when you felt confident, you are like, okay, I will reach out. You reached out to them.
Hmm.
Now obviously at some point you will have to think about cost, like what is this gonna
Yes.
cost me. If you were to think about you doing your own thing, and I'm assuming that you did all of it on your own with the
Hmm.
help of lawyer who was
Yes.
actually filing the petition, because
Hmm.
there are companies who are helping people build a
Right.
profile, and
Hmm.
then like they connect them to the lawyers and then it goes forward.
Hmm.
So in your case, did you do all of it by yourself?
Yes, it was just me and the lawyers. I did not engage any agencies for like building my profile.
Like how did you have that confidence that okay, I can do this?
No, I was like, I mean, already the visa process is quite expensive. So I thought I'm not like spending more money just to get someone to build my profile. I was like, I'd rather put in that hard work myself.
Hmm. And
Yeah.
Were you scared at all or overwhelmed when you first looked at like these
Oh yeah.
criteria? Like, there's no way I will qualify for this.
Oh yeah, I was like so I was very apprehensive that this is not for me. I'm not qualified enough. I mean, I used to keep reading posts about O1 and like people call it the Einstein visa. Like
Yeah.
one of the most like I think I read two or three blogs which said like for awards you need like a Nobel Prize to qualify. I was like, yeah, no way is this for me. So there were many moments of doubt, but I think I had this close friend of mine who had gotten the O1. I was like, okay, if she can do it, maybe even I have a shot at it. So yeah,
Yeah.
that kept me going. But I did have a lot of moments of doubt.
Mm. And obviously, this, I hope that this, and I know we discussed this off camera, that this is going to inspire others as well and hopefully give them hope that
Hmm.
they, if Samida can do it, so can you as well.
Yeah.
Obviously, they have to figure out the path on their own. But
Hmm.
okay, back to cost. How much is this going to cost me, including
Okay.
lawyers?
So, supposing you don't engage an external agency, do everything on your own, and just take the lawyer's help for the application process, it will take between 9 to 15,000. So this depends on the lawyer's starting cost, like their service fee, and if you go for an expedited process or not. I personally had gone for an expedited process, so that itself cost me like $2,800. And in case you get an RFE after your application, then that's going to incur further costs.
Okay.
Yeah.
And sorry, 9 to 15,000, 2,800 is for premium processing.
Right.
And is this money you have to have saved? Like, do you pay it all outright, or is there an installment plan available?
So okay, then I'd like to clarify that the 9 to 15,000 is inclusive of all the USCIS fees. So
Right.
that's not
Yeah.
something you're spending up out of this. So I think USCIS fees you need to pay upfront.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like a yeah, you can't negotiate on that. But I guess lawyers might be flexible. But I mean,
Hmm.
I was lucky enough that I had an amount saved up, so I didn't really explore that option.
Yeah, yeah. I know a bunch of lawyers do have like a payment plan or something like
Right.
that.
Hmm.
Um, but okay, got it.
Yeah.
9 to 15,000 if you're doing it on your own.
Right.
Plus, this includes lawyer as well. Again, these depends on the lawyers, and
Hmm.
maybe
Right.
they
Which
and New
lawyer
York
you
lawyer might
engage
be
in?
expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the agency cost might be different. If you feel like this is too overwhelming, I heard Samida, but I'm not Samida, so I want to get an help from agency. You
Hmm.
can do that, but then
Yeah.
obviously there's an addition cost to that.
Yeah, you're going to have to pay them as well. So that will
Right.
increase the costs.
Yeah.
Also, I think the good thing about, okay, so I was really lucky with the lawyers. They were really helpful and quite upfront and blunt about everything. So, and I've spoken to others who also engage with different lawyers. So it's like you pay in installments. So, in
Mm.
case the first step is cleared, only then you pay for the next one. And also in my case it was like the final $3,000 I had to pay only after I got my approval. So had my visa been rejected, I would not have had to pay that. So
Mm.
it's like a step by step payment. It's not a one shot payment.
Got it. Okay. Um, so, and this might be naive question, I since I'm like learning more about H1B. In H1B, you cannot self sponsor. I guess now you can have your own company and sponsor it through that. But yeah, there's a
I
recent
didn't
law
know
that just,
that.
yeah.
Okay.
But what about O1B? Like, can you self sponsor? And if you can, well, like, how does that work? Or do you need a company to sponsor you?
No, so there's like three ways of sponsoring it. One would be you get your employer to sponsor you, but in that case, you would be tied to your employer. And in case you were to lose your job, you lose your visa as well. And then when you look for another job, you're going to have to get them to sponsor you again.
Mm.
So you can go with the employer. The other is agency based sponsorship. So there are these employment agencies that are there. You could ask them, this is like, I'm guessing for contract workers. So you could get them to sponsor you. But again, that's the same case. You're tied to them. And
Mm.
also, so when you file for the O1 is granted for 3 years for the first time.
Mm.
So you need to also give them a work itinerary for 3 years. Like, what are you going to be working on for the next 3 years? So in case the agent is unable to provide work for 3 years, you'll only get the visa for for the duration that the agent can show that you have worked for. And the third one is you could sort of self sponsor it. But so basically, anyone with a green card or a US citizen can sponsor you, can sponsor you. So in my case, I had an American friend of mine who was my sponsor. So all that means is that he would be getting the notifications from USCIS or any updates on my case, or in case I were to like default, then he would be the first
Mm.
one. And for example, he gets mad at me and he's like, yeah, I don't want this person in the country anymore, he could just revoke it. So yeah, that's but the good thing about that is you're not tied to your employer.
Mm.
And yeah, I mean, it's anyone with a green card or a citizen. So I'm sure every one of us knows someone like that. So I
Yeah,
hope.
yeah. So it's almost like a family based,
Yeah.
like if a family sponsoring, if I were to
Mhm.
sponsor my mom, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not a citizen, but my wife
Mhm.
were to sponsor me, so I got green card because of my wife.
Right.
So similar to that, but in the this category, O1B category, where you have to be extraordinary, you have to have extraordinary ability, or at
Hmm.
least you have to prove that you have extraordinary
Hmm.
ability. Got it. We talked about that. What are there any other restrictions on O1B?
Yes. So you get the initial O1, you get it for 3 years, and after
Hmm.
that, you can renew it for infinite number of times. There's no cap on that, but the renewal after that is going to be every year, which can get kind of annoying.
Oh,
So,
wow.
and
Okay.
yeah, and the renewal process is also tedious, I've heard. I've only spoken to one person who's renewed it so far, but it's not as extensive as the first time you apply, but you're going to have to you're going to have to get your employer to say that, okay, I'm going to employ this and this person for the next 1 year. You need to get it stamped, the whole thing. So that is one drawback. The second drawback is if you are on an H1B, you are still on track for a green card. Your employer could like file I'm forgetting the name of the form, but your employer could
Yeah,
like,
I-140. Yeah.
yes, your employer can file the I-140 and you are at least in queue for the green card. O1 does not by itself put you on the green card track. You're going to have to change your visa to something else, if that is your goal. And I think the third drawback is it only works for yourself. Like, you can't have any spouse or dependent working with you. For example, if I were to say that I have a dependent on me, the dependent can only stay in the country on an O3 visa. The dependent
Mm.
can never get work authorization. So
Mm.
if you're married, then that's not going to work out for you, because you can only work yourself.
Yeah, so for H1B, if your I-140 is in approved status, then you do get H4 EAD. So you can,
Right. Yeah. Your
have that.
dependent will not get an EAD for O1.
Is there a path for green card, or like I know EB1As are
Yeah.
available. So is that
EB1A is
what?
the one. Yeah.
But would
EB1A,
you?
EB1B. Yeah.
Okay, and is that the same thing? EB1A is for more scientists, engineers, and EB1B is more for
I
creatives.
From what I've spoken to and gathered, I think EB1B is for researchers and
Mm.
EB1A is for like all other professionals. But
Okay.
yeah, I think most people who get an O1 just like sort of work on their EB1 profile and get the green card that way.
Mm. And again, you're not a lawyer, so you wouldn't know this, but I am guessing while you are on O1, you could potentially also apply for H1B.
I have, yes, my lawyers did tell me that I could participate in the lottery. So, yeah, I guess that will work.
Yeah, and then technically you could move to H1B and
Yes,
then extend H1B and then go
right.
that route as well if you want to.
Yeah.
Got it.
And also, statistically, uh, the approval rate for O1 is between 85 to 90%, which is a very high approval rate. So
Yeah.
I was like, okay, maybe this might
Some
work.
hope. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. What are like, so once you submit, you said
Mhm.
15 days to get decision back.
Right.
In H1B, you get I-797 approval notice. Then you
Hmm.
take notice, you book a visa stamping interview outside United States, and then you
Hmm.
go do the interview, get it stamped on your passport,
Right.
and you can re-enter.
Hmm.
How does that work? Does is that even a thing in O1B? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, so even in the O1B, you get like the approval notice, and there's no time limit for when you have to stamp it.
Mm,
So, for example, if I get my approval notice today, I can start working today itself. I don't need any permit or anything. The approval notice is good enough, provided I'm in the United States already.
mm,
It's kind of complicated if you're not in USA. Then
yeah.
I honestly don't know how it works. But if you're in the United States, then you don't really need to get it stamped. But
Mm,
yeah, of course, when you exit the country and you have to re-enter, you're going to need an O1 visa stamp. So
mm,
I got my approval in October, and I had planned some travel to India in December anyway. So for me, it was a Dropbox appointment. I just had to drop off a copy of my approval notice, photos, my passport, and I got the stamp within like 4 days. So it was
so
quite
no
easy.
interview for you.
No interview as well. Yeah.
So and I think it's mainly because the you had F1 visa as well.
Yes, I had an F1. Yeah, I actually had joined a Day 1 CPT course because my F1 had expired.
Hmm.
And I did not have a stamp for the new one, but I mean, it was valid. So
Yeah, yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
guessing that's the reason I didn't have to give an interview, because it
Mm,
was like transition from one visa to another. Maybe people with no visa might have to go through an interview.
yeah. Do you know if your friend had to go through interview or was that also in,
Well, my friend got her O1 during COVID, so she couldn't leave the country to get it stamped. And
okay.
then, yeah, and then she ended up marrying an American, so she got a green card. So, totally
Nice.
different
Okay.
case.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Gotcha. Okay. Um, I would also imagine the stress of figuring out which lawyer to actually go with.
Oh, yeah.
How did you like? Was there a criteria where you were like thinking like, okay, I'm like, how did you decide like which lawyer to go with? Because there are a bunch of them, so like
Yeah.
you have to probably figure out which lawyer is gonna be good one for me.
So, I spoke to people, like I reached out to people, friends who had gone through the process. I got to know what all lawyers they were working with. I sort of just generally looked up the law firms. I tried to schedule calls with the lawyers. Two of them got back, so I was like, okay, I spoke to them. I felt like one of them seemed sort of like discouraging about my profile. She was like, yeah, this is
Mm.
not gonna work. So I was like, okay. And actually she was the first one I spoke to. So I was like, oh my god, yeah, this visa is not for
Yeah.
me and everything. But then the second lawyer was actually very positive. He was like, okay, to be very honest with you, this is what you lack. You need to work on
Mm.
this. But if you do that, we have a case to build on. So I was like,
Mm.
okay, this seems doable. Also, the costs were a factor for me. So they give you the tariff like early on as well. So that also helped me make a decision.
Mm. And I know we've been talking about like you have to work on your profile, and these are the things which is basically gathering the evidences. Um, what is that process look like? In If you were to think about like layman terms, like what does that mean and what does that process look like?
Okay, so the actual submission is it's a long printed document. Okay, so
Yeah, I know you mentioned.
my final submission stack was like this thick, A4 papers. So it consists of your work itinerary, which means for the next 3 years, who is going to be employing you in what capacity. So, since, yes, one thing I forgot to mention previously, if you're doing a self sponsored one through a US citizen, then you need to have multiple job offers, minimum of two.
Mm,
So you need to show how those two employers are going to engage you for the next 3 years. So the
mm,
work itinerary is one. Then there are 8 recommendation letters from people in your field. So these recommendation letters are like quite intense. They're very detailed and they specifically highlight how great you are, to put it very bluntly. And
mm,
yeah, so they could be from your professors, they could be from people you've worked with, they could
mm,
be from industry leaders. So basically 8 people who can vouch for the quality of your work. That is one requirement. Then there is a media kit that you submit. So the media kit is a compilation of all the press releases, any video presence that you've got, any news coverage that you or your project has gotten. So that is one. And again, this is accompanied also by proof of the authenticity of the media platform. So, for example, I say that, okay, Pittsburgh Times printed an article for me. Then I also need to prove how awesome Pittsburgh Times is. So, yeah. So USCIS
mm,
has like, I think like two uh, criteria on which they decide how authentic a website is. So you need to like go there, print the stats for that, and like attach it to the news article. So that. So the media kit is one. And then the final one is your portfolio, which is the longest document. So that is going to be like all the contributions that you've had. So, for example, if you've written a paper, you need to actually print the entire paper and put it in. And then again, you have to show that, say, 500 people read my paper, or how good this journal is that printed my paper. You need to again show the stats for how many people go to this website, what is the website
mm,
traffic like. Then how, or for example, in my case, I had highlighted a few airports that I worked on. So I had to show that, okay, these many million people use the airport on a yearly basis, which makes
mm,
my work very important. So basically, you need to prove how your work is helping the country. By the country, I mean United States. Or you need to prove how your work is advancing the field in general.
mm,
Yeah. So my lawyers had told me the more documentation you can provide, the better it is. They literally use the terms drown USCIS in paperwork. So yeah, that was, I think that was the most exhaustive part of the process, just
yeah.
gathering all the information.
Mm. And I'm assuming lawyer, you would be like, "Hey, is this good enough?" And then you would
Oh
talk to
yeah.
lawyer, call
So
lawyer, be like, "Yeah."
yeah, there was a lot of back and forth. It's like I got the first draft together and I was like, wow, I'm done. And then the lawyer was like, yeah, you can't do this. This language is problematic. You can't use this website to give the stats. Then you need to remove this. So earlier, actually, I was very happy with the awards criteria because I thought, okay, I've gotten like quite a few awards as a student, so I'm good on that front. And then the lawyer was like, yeah, any references to you being a student have to go out. And then I was like, oh my god, this is going to be tricky. So yeah.
Yeah, this reminds me. So I obviously it's not as complex as O1B, but when I got my green card for my marriage,
Hmm.
even that we had to do the same thing. Like, I mean, not like that big of a thing, but
Hmm.
like we did have to, like, when did we start dating, our dating
Yeah.
pictures, and then like our marriage pictures. We had two weddings, one in India, one in United States.
Hmm.
Who got us married, their letter that this person actually was
Right.
officiated the wedding. And so I in that to me was stressful. I was like, we did and we also had an interview too, so the
I was
preparation for
actually
interview.
about to ask you about the interview. I've like heard that they're very intense and they can quiz you on
Yeah,
anything.
it really depends on who the officer is. In
Okay.
our case, it was slightly less intense, but there was an interview, and they did ask. Essentially, they just want to know how well we know each other, and is it truly a like a marriage, and it's not a fake marriage.
Right.
So, like, when did we meet? Luckily, me and my wife are very like a no joke type people, so
Okay.
like she actually said like, oh, we met on this date, and then I'm like, no, we didn't met on this date. So we were like kind of arguing in front of him. So he's like, he said, this looks like a husband and wife.
Yeah. So that worked
So
in your favor.
it did, but she was like nervous because she's like she didn't want it to mess up the date and it would
Right.
have like bad on our case. But I was like, we know that we like, we have not faked this. So but it was like, when did you meet, what do I do, what does she do, how much money do I make, and like bunch of
Oh
questions.
wow.
So yeah, because in marriage you technically have finances together, and
Yeah.
all of those things, like, so yeah, it was intense. But luckily my lawyer was with me,
Okay.
so he was like, he said he had obviously prepped us, and he said if there is anything, then he will step in and say like, you know they already answered this question, but
Okay.
he was there sitting in the next chair, and
Mm-hmm.
nothing like, it didn't come to that, and then bunch of signs, and then we were good. So it was okay, but it was intense.
Yeah.
So anyway, that it just reminded me of that
Hmm.
phase when I had to put together. Now at some
Give
point
proof
I'll
for
be
everything. Yeah.
yeah, I have to apply for citizenship at
Hmm.
some point, and I know it's gonna be the same drill all over again. So so I'm dreading it. This reminds me, how did you organize all of your documents, evidences? Like, did you use any like an online tool, or
Oh,
plain old school like a filing stuff?
so I mean, I use this software called Adobe InDesign. I'm
Hmm.
pretty sure the creative professionals will be well versed with it. But honestly, you can just use MS Word for all that matters, because all you have to do is like it's going to be a bunch of images, some text, and you basically have to like highlight your name wherever it shows. So you could do this in terms of like you could like box wherever your name comes or use the highlighter tool. So it's basically very simple things. It's just very exhaustive putting it together.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm. Nice. Okay. Are there any misconception about O1B, like, or O1 in general? Like
Well,
people.
I think the biggest one is people doubting if they can get it, because
Mm,
I think from everything I read, it was like, oh, this is an Einstein visa. You need to have extraordinary out of the world capabilities to qualify for it. You have to have like crazy amount of awards for it. So I think the buzz around Owen is to sort of make people question themselves and just sort of leave that path that okay, I'm not qualified, this is not for me, I'm going to explore something else. I think that's the
mm,
biggest misconception.
mm. And I'm assuming, this is my guess based on everything you've told me, that having a good network probably helped you as well. So I guess the question uh, is having like a network and industry connection helpful for such type of visa preparation?
Oh, yes. I think the biggest help is for the recommendation letters that I mentioned, because it's 8 recommendation letters. And
Mm,
it's not like I can get all 8 from my colleagues. No, because that's going to reduce the authenticity of your profile. So you're going to need evidences from a diverse set of people. So your ex-employer's work, your employer's work, professors' work, people you've presented with or collaborated with work. So that
mm,
is when industry connections really help. And I think the second case is since I did a self-sponsored visa through a
Mm.
friend of mine, uh, I needed two job offer letters. So I got one from the current place I work, but for the other one, again, you're going to need connections, because it's a different thing if you actually plan on switching your job, or
Mm.
you could obviously do it the traditional way, where you can be like, okay, I'm going to apply for jobs and then get it. But I mean, job applications is a whole new ball game in itself. It takes
Yeah.
time. So
I mean,
you're
yeah.
not going to get an offer letter to align with the time that you're applying in. Also, you're not it's difficult to find an offer letter which is going to say, okay, I'm going to employ you after 2 years. Like offer letters are usually like, okay, I need you to start working immediately. So that is
Mm.
when you like, you could reach out to your ex-employers and be like, hey, you know me, I am a good person, I'm a good employee, and I'm struggling with my visa, so could you please like give me a provisional job offer letter, and I'm happy to help you
Mm.
out in any way I can. So that is, those two factors are when your industry connections help a lot.
Mm. Yeah, and I remember this. I actually gave couple of recommendations
Mm-hmm.
for someone who went to B1A and I think O1A. Um, I was like, I don't know why you would want from me, but obviously, because I personally think they obviously value me, but I don't know if USCIS values me. So I'm like,
I
I don't
mean,
know.
honestly, if they're in the same field as you, then it might work out. Because,
Yeah, so that
yeah,
person was
because you
in
also
you.
need to like give a detailed CV of your recommenders. So they,
Mm.
yeah, so
I
if
did. Yeah, I
yeah, so
remember
if they were in
doing.
the same field as you, then yeah, it would have worked.
It's like one level lower than me. So I
Hmm.
was say I'm senior product manager, and
Yeah,
this person is UX on the path of becoming a product specialist. So yeah, so they obviously senior product manager, and that's what like they wanted to me. And plus I did have like some mentoring sessions with that person.
oh, okay.
So um, I remember doing this and going back and forth, and it's like, okay, like it's like, why do you need my resume? It's like so so I yeah
Mhm.
but I think building that relationship, because I was willing to do that for that person.
Right,
Like it's only like if you she didn't have that network with me, she wouldn't have gotten it, obviously. So
right.
yeah, yeah, so
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
very helpful.
Hmm. It
um
definitely helps for these two factors at least.
Yeah. So obviously, a lot of my audience is students wanting to come to United States for their master's education,
Hmm.
or they're already in United States and watching this because they want to get a job or their immigration situation. At what point should they be thinking about, like, at some point I might need to do this, so I should start working on,
Oh, yeah.
getting into competitions and
Right.
awards and judging others and all of this.
Oh, yeah. So I think if any viewers are like thinking of pursuing O1, then you already, through the link that Yudi will be posting, you'll see the criteria. So I think immediately you should start sort of engaging yourself in any speaking engagements, or working towards increasing the number of your publications, judging events, collaborating with people, working on your connections. I think the more effort you put in beforehand, the quicker the process is going to be when you actually start gathering your evidence. And if this
Yeah.
is something that is for you, then it would be a good thing to document all email threads related to this, any photographs of you presenting. Basically, look at the portfolio for submission as proof for every line that is on your CV.
Mm.
So yeah, I would think if someone is actually thinking of pursuing it, then they need to start immediately.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the stage one is knowing that and
Right.
becoming aware that something like this exists, and
Hmm.
stage two is realizing that they could be eligible for this just like you were.
Right.
And then stage three is like, okay, I can start doing this from the day I realize that I could do something like this.
Yeah.
yes, you can still apply for H1 and keep going that path, but if
Hmm.
something doesn't work out and you still want to figure out a way, this could be a path, and you might
Yeah.
have all the things already lined up for you.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Once you do get a O1B, do you get, like, did it impact your career in any way, like in terms of creative field, or did it open the doors because you have
Uh,
O1B?
yeah. So, well, on an O1 visa, you can work on like multiple work assignments. You're not just tied.
Hmm.
If you are self-sponsoring it, you're not just tied to one employer. So that gives you time to like pursue other research projects, get paid for the work you put in. It gives you time to sort of work on freelance projects, get paid for it. So it basically just opens up new possibilities for further work. And if that is something you're not interested in, then fine, you can just focus on what you like doing. Yeah, I think that is the major difference.
Yeah, basically you're not restricted to this question, will you require the sponsorship, like, I mean,
Yes, because you
yeah,
don't, because you're
you
just
have
yeah.
the you have the sponsorship now.
Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. This is such an enlightening conversation. I think I have asked you everything I wanted to ask, and I'm
Hmm.
sure audience might have more questions.
Yeah.
They will put comments, and if they have questions, I'll, like, reach out to you. It's like, can we do a follow up session on these
Go for it.
questions,
Mhm.
kind of thing. But any final words of wisdom, advice for people who are thinking about it now? They thought about it and they feel imposter syndrome, and it's like, there's no way this is something, like, what would you tell to them?
Well, I think I would just tell them that having moments of doubt is extremely common for this journey. So don't doubt yourself. If you feel that your profile is strong enough, then please, please, please explore this option, because uh, the O1 is a purely merit based visa. It's not like H1 where it's a lottery. So if you are qualified, you just get it approved. There's no cap for how many number of visas they're going to approve. You can apply any time of the year, as opposed to H1, which is like between February to April, I
Yeah.
think.
Yep.
Yeah, you can just apply any time of the year. uh, and if you feel that this is something you want to pursue, then I would say it's better to start working on it as soon as possible.
Yeah. Amazing. Love it. Thank you
Mhm.
again for doing this. I am excited to explore more about your master's journey and
Mhm.
also architect journey and the career and outcomes and all of it. But until our next one,
Keep smiling and keep hustling. Thank you.
nice.